Hello, 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 and welcome back to Chakras and Cusswords Podcast. You cosmic fucking baddie, you bad bitch, you witchy divine goddess. Is there such thing as a witchy divine goddess? I don't know, but if there is, I feel like it's you, boo. So, my name is Katherine, and if you're new here, welcome. I welcome you. I am the podcast host of this podcast, Chakras and Cusswords, where we dive into everything cosmic that is tantalizing our brainwaves. We also dive into some areas of conspiracy and storytelling, of course. And I tend to throw out some meditations in the podcast rotation, in case you're one of the people who found me through the meditations. But for the most part, we get down and dirty with this astrology. So, let's talk about this new moon in Virgo. Now, this new moon in Virgo is a new moon. This new moon in Virgo is like that new moon that's ready to fuck around and find out and possibly lose her virginity. Like, this new moon in Virgo is doing everything the virgin is not supposed to do at a fucking very early age. This new moon in Virgo is giving, I ain't a virgin no more. No more. It's giving that energy of new womanhood, new goddess, new divine feminine, new divine queen of the night. It's just giving this energy that feels intoxicating. It's giving like this energy that feels very critical in some space. So the new moon in Virgo is literally occurring August 23rd at 2025 at 2:06 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's literally popping its cherry at 0 degrees. So this new moon in Virgo is literally that energy before you go out on the date, before you see who you are dating on that blind date, or like you are centered around maybe meeting somebody new and you got hooked up with them. Maybe it was a blind date. Maybe you met them on like a dating app and you're not sure if like they're really catfishing you. Did he gain like 15 pounds from that last picture? Like, you're really not really sure. It's kind of like that energy as you're turning the doorknob before you actually see what the fuck you're working with. It's kind of like that energy when we are talking about new. It's literally 23 degrees in Virgo is when this moon hits at 0 degrees. This new moon is opening up her legs, temple, her gates, or the energy of movement. And she's calling us into her altar. We have to remember our magic is us. We're the fucking altar. We're the fucking portal. Everything that we give is divine. And it's like an altar of renewal. And the Virgo is centered with that energy. So the moon and the sun together unite in Virgo, where the energy of the queen, the high priestess of this earthy realm, because Virgo is an earth sign, it is also a mutable sign. So it's kind of like that sign that's in the middle where it has that adaptability. It's not as fixed as a fixed sign, and it's not as spontaneous as a cardinal sign, but it's inviting us to like slowly weave our intentions into creations. And it's focused on creations in a pattern, in a subtle, consistent pattern that affects our daily lives. Okay? It doesn't just affect the night. It just does not affect the new day, but it affects our lives as the energy of movement. This lunation is forming a yod, which is also known as a finger fate, between Saturn, Neptune, and Pluto. Now, I don't want to just talk this astrology gibberish, and you're not really understanding like what this energy meets. So for the most part, I do not consider myself an astrologer. Like, I'm not getting down and dirty with a lot of the degrees, but something like a yod, where it's considered the finger of God or the finger of the fate, is a rare, powerful aspect or pattern that points to very specific life purposes or also spiritual missions. So the structure is like a triangle made of two quincunxes at 150 degrees and one sextile of 60 degrees. The two planets in the sextile apart of 60 degrees apart are easy and cooperative energy. So it likes it there. But the other planets, both of those planets form a quincunx. And then you have the third planet on the top, known as the area of the apex, creating tension and discomfort and a sense of being pushed towards growth. So it's kind of like that energy of, I feel comfortable here, feel very, very comfortable here, but then that energy of something pulling and making you grow and making you create new intentions. Like, most of our biggest life-changing performances or movements didn't happen because we wanted that growth to occur. It happened because we were forced to fucking grow. It's like when the virgin loses her virginity, and now it's like, well, you got to get your fucking ass out of my house or get married because you're now a woman. And her parents are making her move out, right? Or making her get centered with womanhood. It's kind of like that uncomfortable feeling. The energy of the apex planet, the main focal point, is where the finger is pointing, because the quincunxes are awkward and they often feel like something is just out of reach, or that life keeps pushing them into situations that forces them to grow in that apex's planet house. So we will look at that planet's house. It is called the finger of God because it's said to feel like a fated mission, and also a center that we may not have chose, but the destiny has chose us. The life experiences that often occur with this type of energy is the sense of destiny and a lifelong puzzle asking you to solve that mystery piece. It is a constant pressure point until you initiate the energies of the other two planets that are feeding into it. When it is mastered, so you need to look at your chart, right? When it is mastered, it becomes a unique superpower, but it requires adaptation, flexibility, and willingness to transform. So for instance, let's say we have the moon sextiled with the energy of Neptune and Saturn. And then we also have that energy of Pluto forcing us, downright kicking us out of the house to make some vibracious changes. So Neptune often allows us to feel sleepy and to feel a little bit naive and delusional, while Saturn allows us to understand our responsibilities and also to address our boundaries. But that emotional situation of Pluto forcing us to grow creates an area of dynamic purpose. So this is definitely an energy that many of us may feel all through the cosmic connection with this new moon in Virgo. While the new moon in Virgo and the Virgin archetype has this energy of purity, we cannot forget the energy of the earth, the area of she is the keeper of the sacred order, the herbalist with her dirty fingernails and quiet aesthetic. She invites us to listen to the energy of music that are filling our feet with movement and forcing us to move our legs and dance into her sacred purpose. Under her influence, we are asked to look at the world much bigger than just stepping stones to this path. We will plant seeds not just in her presence, but also when the wild winds allow us to, in the area of silence, and patiently preparing as the seasons are likely in their middle state to change. There is a ritual invitation that the Virgo goddess brings. It is this holy precision that sometimes we act so small that we forget how truly godly each one of us actually is, crafting our own desires, our own intentions, and our own spells. This is definitely a time to cleanse your body with energies of food that feel nutritious, but not only that, but to allow comfort and its healing properties with the medicine of the herbs. It is a time to begin projects that require devotion, patience, pattern, and consistent care. Making a list and crossing off the energies of incompletion, where we will throw those past movements away. Creating routines that not just serve you in livelihood of areas of health and wellness, but also feed your spirit, as well as they are able to be adapted into your schedule. The Virgo is very much centered around adaptability and seeing the energy of consistency. I told you to look to see where the Virgo plays in your chart. If you are a sun in Virgo, rising sign, or even a moon in Virgo, there is a time for you to address the rearranging of your inner habits. How can you honor this sacred energy of the purity of your spirit, calling into the divine purpose of where you are? We have to remember that with cosmic transformation, as Pluto is whispering or yelling at us quite abruptly to create some form of movement, also to create some energy of taking the first step. We see the presence that Pluto is bringing in the transformative process, but we also see that Saturn and Neptune are calling us to build on not just our dreams, but our areas of reality, the areas of Earth. And while we do have a little bit of a trickster, that cosmic rebellion and that cosmic placement of Uranus disrupting us in anything that could happen, it is almost like that energy of the obstacle kicking us right in the fucking shins to acknowledge that this is real, to acknowledge that this movement is centered for us to up level and also upshift. We have to remember that with transformation, we often feel unsettled. We often feel like it's something that we have to do because the energy of denial sometimes has been occurring with us so long and so frequently that when we actually hear the truth, feel the truth, it almost feels like a slap in the face. It's not just a mere energy of this is what you need to see. It's the energy of this is what you have to see. And sometimes it could be a little bit abruptive, but that's okay because we will clear away whatever's been holding us back and keep our temple sacred, if you know what I mean. We have to remember that changes like this and transformation like this with new moon movement around new intentions and divine presence around the feminine are often like areas that change and shapeshift our life. It also creates an energy of destiny and the energy of our pathways. So don't fear whatever change might be coming your way, but see it as an energy of creating what is right for your next movement. We could also talk about the Virgo archetype in areas of mythology. The Virgo archetype or the Virgin archetype is played out in many cultures, right? The Virgin is always something that everybody wants, right? Pure, untainted, very desirable. One of the most famous goddesses tied into the Virgo archetype is Astraea. She was a Greek goddess of justice, innocence, and purity. She often was depicted in holding scales, which is interesting because it was later associated with the Libra. But it had a deep connection to the Virgo's essence. The mythology of Astraea was she was the daughter of Zeus and Themis, living among humans during the Golden Age, when people lived in harmony with the gods on Earth. As humanity grew and became more corrupt and evil, the energy around purity began to demolish. She was one of the last immortals to leave Earth, retreating to the heavens and becoming the constellation of Virgo. She represents truth, service, and of course, morality, and having that ethical integrity that only something so delicate and beautiful as the Virgo would have. But she also carries the energy of sorrow, of someone who longs to heal and restore balance to such a broken and damaged world. In astrology and the energy of movement, Astraea's Virgo energy is about devotion, caretaking, services, and also the energy of healing, as she is the healer who works quietly, the perfectionist who wants the world to be whole again and perfect. But we understand that that movement doesn't always happen when there is so much cosmic chaos. Another energy of one of the most original movements is understanding that once the Virgin loses her sexual purity, the energy of not being demolished or not being tainted, she turns into a stature that feels all so opposite, the energy of the whore, which is also seen as the shadow side. So the energy of the whore is often depicted after the Virgin has lost the innocence. The Virgo is the sign of service and the body of devotion. In ancient temples and cultures, especially in Mesopotamia and Mesoamerican cultures, the sacred sexuality of part of the priestess is often seen as an energy of work or commitment to give to the man who is, I guess you could say, deserving of her purity. It's also been centered around a lot of exploitation, and it is considered very holy in some ways, but many women do fall victim of becoming the delightful whore. The Virgo energy is the bridge between the sacred and the sensual aspects. The Virgo does rule the 6th house, where it's centered off of health, work, ritual, and also wellness. But that presence of earthly sensuality is often rocked with the intellectual and analyzational properties of Mercury, because the Virgo is ruled by Mercury. The Virgo can channel healing through words, touch, and sacred space, but it also knows that she is much more than just a healer. She is a medicine woman, an herbalist, a midwife, a lover, and even some might say one of the most sacred goddesses. The Virgo and the whore archetype is a very powerful presence that many women embody. Very easily because it's natural. The Virgo teaches us that we can be pure in our integrity and boundaries, and also sensual in our body and pleasures. We can have sacred energies around surface and also purpose. It's not about choosing one or the other. It's about allowing that duality of seductiveness and also simplifying who we are in the presence of our own duality. One of the ways to really channel that energy of the duality of both the virgin and the whore is to understand our standards, understand the energy of time and saying no to what is not right for us, not giving ourselves away to some selfish man who only wants our purity. It's to be centered around saying yes to what makes us feel fully aligned in our passion and what turns us on emotionally, spiritually, or even physically. It's understanding that there is balance in rituals, that we are centered off consistency and morning routines, as well as evening practices. We are centered around the movement that allures us as creating the mystical presence to each new day, understanding that we are the temple and we are the portal that enlightens so much purity and magic. It is centered around speaking our truth and also being centered around the wholeness and the ecstasy of the emotions of who we are. There are definitely other archetypes that resemble the Virgin or the area of the Virgo. For instance, in Mesoamerican cultures, in the Aztec culture, there is Xochitl, the goddess of beauty, flowers, love, and also the energy of young women. She's often seen as an eternally youthful and pure essence. We have to remember that Mercury, people who have a lot of Mercury placements are also seen as very youthful. She is connected to the energy of fertility, sensuality, and she bridges the energy of maiden and lover into one archetype, representing both the innocence and the energy of seduction as the life force and the cycle turns. Just like the energy of the Virgo, she's tied into cycles of renewal, the energy of movement, the energy of service through not just love, but also body and creation, allowing her physical and metaphoric temple to become much more than just the energy of childbirth, but also the energy of beauty and youth, a sacred space that she holds quite beautifully in the area of innocence. Ixchel is a Mayan goddess who was known as the energy of the young maiden in some aspects. Ixchel had multiple aspects about her, and she showed the area of duality, as her maiden phase was linked to fertility, midwifery, and also the waxing moon. In the phases that embodies the energy of the Virgo, the healer, the archetype, caring for others through herbs and medicine, there is also the energy of duality with her story. Ixchel was much more than just the Mayan goddess of the moon. She often was connected to fertility and the energy of water and weaving, even in the presence of storms. She holds a lot of traits that resemble the Virgo. Her name was roughly translated to the energy of the Lady Rainbow, she of the pale face. She is sometimes depicted as a young woman or a beautiful maiden, the waxing moon energy, and other times as an older crone or a serpent crown, the waning moon energy, the energy of darkness. This duality shows her in both the energy of the nourisher and the destroyer, giving life and also life-taking. The energy of her archetypes, the Virgin, the youthful maiden, is linked to love, beauty, and new beginnings as the new moon phases, which the energy of devotion and also purity resembles so much familiarity to the Virgo constellation. The mother, the energy of the protector, the woman of childbirth, and the keepers of the water, symbolizing and clearing away any old or turbulent movement, symbolizing that abundance, care, and wellness is just in our own midst, the energy of what we create. The crown, or known as the crone, the wise woman, is the energy that could be seen as the fearsome witch or the fearsome elder who sends floods and storms and vibracious energy of water, a reminder that creation and destruction has two sides. With every presence of life must come death. With energies of anew must also come to the energy of void. There are many symbols of her sacred work, as the moon in the energy of the phases marks the woman's cycle and also the agricultural rhythms. In many photos, she was seen with a rabbit, which some believe seeing with the rabbit shows the purpose of fertility and new growth. There were often times where she was seen weaving looms, or the energy of practice of creation of many weaving practices or movements. The Mayan culture was both centered on art and also spiritual acts, which is the energy of protecting and also preserving, but seen as the energy of producing. The water and the rainbows, she brings a nourishing rain, but can also unleash the floods. So while beauty comes after the destruction, she allows us to channel the energy of cycles, lives, and healing purposes as she weaves the tapestry of our connection of duality. It is believed that the myths say that she fell deeply in love with the sun god, but his jealousy and betrayal pushed her towards independence, shape-shifting her into the energy of animals like the jaguar to protect herself. This fierce independence mirrors the Virgo's ability to stand alone. Ishkal honored her own purity and not to be forced into the energy of devotion, but also allowing the sovereignty over her own body and her own choices. The dual archetype, depending on how the story resembles to you, she appears as a youthful maiden, but also as a aged wise woman, showing a full spectrum of feminine wisdom from the untouched virgin, but also to understanding her whole interpersonal self into a deeply experienced crone, or as one might say, energy of the wise elder. If we are going to talk about fallen virgins or forbidden fruits, the energy of delightful, tantalizing feminine, we have to talk about the deity of Aztec culture, Tlazōlteōtl, the most fascinating and complex deity that has been known to broad Mesoamerican mythology, as she is part of a very sacred conversation about the paradox of shadow work and transformation. Her name alone means filthy deity or goddess of dirt, but in Tlazōlteōtl, filth is Tlazōlteōtl, referred to the physical dirt and the moral of the spirit impurity, especially around sexual misdeeds. She was both the energy of sexuality and the goddess of purification, the movement of which made her a divine embodiment of the virgin and the whore paradox. Tlazōlteōtl was one of the most tempted humans to impure acts and the one who could absorb and absolve them afterwards. The energy that she brought was centered around sexuality, lust, and desire, but also forgiveness, cleansing of guilt or sin, fertility and childbirth, also the presence of earth and decay and compost, the energy around transformation through breakdowns, and also around new movements and new growth. She received movements around having midwives and healing. She was often seen as wearing a headdress of cotton with black around her mouth, symbolizing filth, and sometimes holding tools of weaving or cleaning, sometimes shown in her pictures or energy of giving birth, tying her new life cycles and creations to a presence here on earth. She had the Virgin and Whore energy, the energy of duality. Tlazōlteōtl embodies both seduction and sanctuary. She does not separate the two. She is the sacred area of sensual pleasure, desire, and also misfortune. In Aztec myths, sexual desire was not inherently evil. It was a natural force that could also be absorbed or honored. Her energy of duality teaches us there is no purity without contact if the impure shadow and the light completes each other. Her ritual role during certain ceremonies was centered around confessions, where people were made to feel that they had to confess their sins to the priest or priestess to cleanse one's spirit. This is not necessarily the energy of punishment, but centered around driven confessions, but a release with what understanding that sometimes what is desired can often be mistaken as an energy of movement that is pure. And the renewal that all of our parts are just human. While it is believed that she has been also centered around the energy of disease and filth, she has a very pure essence about her of understanding that seduction and sanction move quite nicely hand in hand. While her duality was connected as the temptress, she is also centered around the goddess of lust, sexuality, desire, and transformation. She encourages us to indulge and especially see the sensual pleasures. As the energy of the purifier, she is also the goddess that absorbs and absolves and releases the center of sin and center of spiritual filth. People would confess their wrongdoings to her as she would eat them to cleanse their soul. So we have to remember that while many of our pleasures and passions come with some impurities, as long as it's focused in the presence of feeling connected to what is right with us. And another reminder, practice safe sex, people. If you are not in a committed relationship or what you believe is a committed relationship, do not hesitate to practice safety before you are practicing how to take medications for lifelong altercations from one possible seductive and crazy night under a new moon. Let's get into a reading. Today, I will be using 2 decks, maybe even 3. I think I'm going to use 3 decks. I haven't used 3 decks in a while. So I'm going to use the Crow Tarot, Starseed Oracle, and the Divine Feminine. So we are going to start with the fire signs. If you are a fire sign, you're a Sagittarius, you are Aries, or you are a Leo. So first of all, I want to say that there's a lot of energy around feeling dominant and understanding your purpose. Also, it's centered around the divine aspect of movement. There's also some movement around being courageous. Now, when we are centered around transformation, we have to have that courage. We have to have that energy of feeling multifaceted and also having that unique ability to allow us to flow into our present state. Also, we have to let ourselves be seen. We have to enjoy the movement that it is that we bring and enjoying the purpose that it is that we see, especially around new creation, around movement. The goddess that was pulled up was Yemoja, the goddess of all that flows. I am the ocean of creative energy. I give birth to what exists within me. So allowing ourselves to give birth into our own movement, allowing ourselves to be centered in our own practices, especially around the sacral chakra and the energy of movement. Also, we have to be tapped into the energy of root, as this new moon is centered with the root stability of the earth sign of the Virgo. For the water signs, if you are a water sign, that means that you are a Scorpio, Pisces, or a Cancer. So very similar to the first card in the energy of movement, in being empowered. Similar energy, but different. This energy shouldn't feel so masculine, but this energy should feel more feminine. When we are in our feminine state or our soft era, we need to be centered around not just the balance of creation around ourselves, but also creation around nourishing others. And also seeing that just like the energy of the crone, of the movement, of feeling that wise woman energy, there is a significance in understanding that our obstacles, our battles, our movement were areas of passage that we had to move from, that we had to learn from, that we had to grow from. It's also a very collective forefront type of energy where it feels more centered around a unit than a very personal energy. So I do feel an energy around being around a unit and growth. Also, I feel like the water sounds are kind of like going through some things, because there might be like the weight of the world kind of like holding you, kind of feeling like you have too much on your plate. You need to kind of shed some of that plate. You might need to shed some of that weight. You might be feeling like you need to look at your boundaries. You really also need to look at letting go at certain situations that have been holding you back in the same cycle, especially when we are developing new intentions around a new moon, around new energies, around new practices. So we have to understand that certain spaces, certain people, certain events aren't made for us to carry that burden, aren't made for us to carry that dishevelment. Also, we have to look at the energy of Sappho, who is the poet. And this is around bringing a softer place in our goddess energy. I love every inch of my body, and I love the woman in my life fiercely. I love the women in my life fiercely. So definitely getting connected back to the feminine for the water signs. If they've been feeling unconnected to the feminine nature, get back into that softer approach, get back into the softer side. For the earth signs. For the earth signs, one of the cards that I picked up from the Crow of Tarot was the moon. How beautiful to receive the moon card during a new moon. So the new moon and the moon card is about the energy of where it could almost feel like void. It could almost feel like shadow. It could almost feel like darkness. It could almost feel like the energy of moving past old timelines, moving past old transformations. There is something very beautiful about the moon. It's very dark, it's very mystical, and understanding that nature is very caring. That nature of empathy lives in us, and it allows us to move forward in who we are. It also allows us to grow in that sacred space of being tied into the feminine, but also being tied into the energy of loss. So if you've just lost something, someone, some relationship, some career, and you're saying goodbye to that loss, and it feels like that void is holding you, understand that this obstacle is centered around growth, even though sometimes it doesn't feel quite like it. But it is centered around understanding the challenges and the gateways of opening up new presence. Also, we want to be connected with our cosmic balance and our star bathing. So it's time for us to get into a lighter approach, understanding our light language, understanding the energy of our cosmic ancestors, understanding the movement of the mystic, being aligned with the energy of frequency that speaks to us that many others don't understand. It's allowing that activation of our mystical and magical presence and also our intuitive practice to come forward. So I would definitely practice some intuitive practices, maybe work on some tarot, maybe pull some cards, see how the patience of the universe is speaking to you internally and also intuitively. Also get centered around really enjoying the darkness, really enjoying the outside. For the energy of the feminine, it makes me think that somebody might be having a baby for the earth signs. You got the cosmic egg, which is the divine feminine. I hold the universe within me. I am the force of an ever expanding love. So I do see a lot of love growing, a lot of nourishment going. I really think that somebody could be centered around fertility with this deck. Not only do we have the moon, but we also have the star bathing and the cosmic egg. So maybe you're going to be a mama, maybe you're going to be a grandma, maybe you're just moving into a new chapter of life in womanhood. If so, let me know in the comments if you are a earth sign or if you are a earth moon. This could be definitely speaking to you. For the air signs, sometimes everything feels so challenging. The world is forever moving. The area of our guide, our area of our presence, our area of frustration, our area of shadow, our area of seeing who we are in our own space, our area of feeling the infinitive processes that we bring. The energy of the world sometimes feels overwhelming. It sometimes feels like we don't know which way to turn. We don't know which way to move. We don't know what to do next. There could definitely be some area of decisions that need to be made with the air signs, how the air signs are feeling tied into this balance of movement. How do the air signs feel aligned with this balance? How is this balance of creating more consistent patterns, creating more consistent routines, really work with them? We have to kind of do like that slap in the face. Are we ready for these big movements? Are we ready for these consistent changes? Are we ready to shift the timeline? If we are, we know what we need to do. If we're just going to pretend we are, then we might as well just go back to bed. We might as well just take a nap and say, fuck it. But if it is something that we are really centered with in creating our own energy for our own world with even the challenges that are around us, then it's something we need to look at full throttle. Also, we have to remember to fall into the arms of the universe, to surrender, but also to surrender to love, surrender to the cosmic energy of love and guidance, holding the opposites, holding the energy of what has been the obstacle, owning it, grieving with it, and understanding that the extremes of life sometimes set us free. It sometimes sets us into our new chapter, and allowing destiny to take its focus, to take the wheel. Oh gosh, how many times have people said, I'm letting Jesus take the wheel? Oh shit. For the energy of the divine goddess, we got Perpetua, the saint of authenticity. I am my authentic self in all circumstances. So understanding to be yourself authentically, understanding to feel that energy of movement that feels right to the presence, to feel right to the soul, understanding your purity, your own purity of who you really are, your own light, your own being, your own spirit. So I want to thank everybody for listening to this podcast. Please like, comment, and share it with your witchy bestie. And everybody have an amazing new moon in Virgo. Bye.